Any tips on learning about indirect communication would be handy for business or parenting?
I got a million parenting questions. So again, I'm avoiding.
And like I was saying, that's kind of why you can't really just talk about something, because there's actually, if you want to quantify the parenting questions, there's infinity parenting questions. There's no end to the parenting question. Because it's just so ambiguous. I don't even know.
I mean, really, the bottom line is parenting is leadership, so the principles can be applied.
Yeah.
But there are some dynamics there, and they're all in your own head.
Yeah.
That's where they are. Mm-hmm. You're in your own head as a parent. They're this emotional thing that you have stronger than you have it for any other person you're ever going to work with, and that is, you want them to succeed more than anybody else. Yeah. You want them to succeed. You want them to be better. You want them to do better. All those things. And that's the dynamic that makes it tricky.
Yeah.
And then there's this weird dynamic, too, of the way they look at you, and they either want to impress you or they want to rebel against you, or they see you as being, imposing on them. So there's just these other dynamics within the leadership confine that are very challenging. Yeah. And again, I can't judge whether I've been successful yet because I only have my oldest daughter is 16. Yeah. My youngest daughter is 6. And then I have another daughter and a son in the middle. And then I know that there's specific mistakes that I have made. I know that. And
even then, mistakes, like, what does that mean? I mean, of course, mistakes if you go too extreme, but because really successful, or I don't say successful, but really driven people who are just, how you get somebody who's really driven?
Yes,
I might know one. But it's usually because some need during development wasn't fulfilled. And I'm not saying, and you can't even say it's a bad thing, because as a result, they're driven because psychologically it's like a need that needs to be fulfilled. So since that little cup remained kind of empty a little bit, they're trying to fill it with all these other things because life went on, new skills, new developments, new situations, and they're still trying to fill that little psychological cup, and it's manifesting in this other way, through business, through, being a Navy SEAL, jiu-jitsu champion, whatever it may be. But typically, and I'm saying every single time, I'm sure there's exceptions, or maybe there's not exceptions, I don't know. But nonetheless, you can usually find some need that went unfulfilled somewhere for people who are super driven. So if you made a mistake parenting, was that really a mistake? In that kind of situation. So like I said, the point is it's so ambiguous. You think what is a successful parent?
Yeah, that's my point. That's why I don't want to talk to people about parenting, because I don't know, I don't feel like an authority on it.
Right.
That should be giving instruction.
Yeah, it's hard to even, how can you be?
I mean, I think I'm doing an okay job.
Well, yeah, so you figure if they're not in jail or super addicted to like drugs or something like this, or then you can say, okay, I think in my opinion, I'm within the confines of being a successful parent.
And you know what? Since we're talking about it, you see some kids, I've known kids, kids I grew up with nice parents and all that, and they go off the rails. Yeah. And that's really scary. Do you blame the parents? I mean, I don't know.
In my opinion, it's because of the parents, yes. But that's not the question, though. Do you blame the parents? I don't know.
And we got a question on here about nature and nurture, so I'm going to talk about that here in a minute. But
indirect communication.
Yeah, let's get back to this. So indirect communication is obviously extremely powerful. It's also tricky to pull off because you can't let your emotions show, and you can't just speak your mind. You have to think about what you're going to say. You have to think about how it will be received and understood by the person or by the people that you're talking to. You got to put yourself into their shoes and hear it from their perspective, and that's really hard to do. And the other piece about this, another piece to think about if you're trying to improve your indirect communication, go into your conversations with a goal. Not just a goal of the conversation itself, but a strategic goal of what you're trying to accomplish. A commander's intent. Why are you having this conversation? What is the end game? What is the end state? What are you trying to make happen?
Yeah.
And keep that in mind as you talk. to this person or this group of people, and then read and react to see how you're saying and how much what you're saying is leading to the end state that you're looking for.
Yep.
Because sometimes we just think about the conversation itself, and the conversation itself doesn't matter. What are you trying to do in the end state? It's like we talked about before a few podcasts ago. The argument that you're having, whether you're right or whether you're wrong, doesn't matter. What matters is the end state. Where are you trying to get this to be? How are you trying to influence this person? And remember that the best way to win is for your opponent to not even realize that there's a debate. That's the best way to win. And you get some people instinctively counter everything that you say.
Yep.
They have a response. They have a thing. They're going to counter everything that you say. Don't do that. If you want to work on your indirect communication skills, absorb what they're saying, right? The best way to get better at indirect communication is to listen. Listen. Not talk, but listen. And as a matter of fact, when you sit back and you let people talk, you're progressing so much, because most people don't want to listen. Most people want to run their mouths. Mm-hmm. And if you ever find yourself running your mouth, you should put yourself in check, because you're giving away too much information. And so you want to listen. You want to try to actually understand what they're saying. And here's another good one. If you don't understand what they're saying, just ask them to explain it again. Mm-hmm. Hey, can you explain that to me again?
I missed it.
I don't understand. That implies that I want to understand. It implies that I'm doing my best to understand. Mm-hmm. It implies that if I don't understand, I'm going to be frank enough with you to tell you. That is how you get better at indirect communication. Because the more you listen to somebody, the better you understand their position. Yeah. And when you know where someone's position is, the better you can maneuver onto that position. The better you can get to a flank, the better you can make adaptations. And the better tactics you have to win. And that's how you get better at indirect communication.
Yeah, you mentioned how you don't, like, if you don't listen, and you know how you fail to put yourself in the other person's shoes, right? There's this thing called the curse of knowledge, right? So let's say I'm this high-level CEO. Sometimes we tend to forget how it is to not be the high-level CEO, or we forget how it is to not know everything we know. That's a curse of knowledge. Like, the knowledge basically blocks you from identifying with someone who doesn't know. You know, so, and that goes into these weird details. You know how when you get enough knowledge, certain significant knowledge becomes common sense to you, but meanwhile to everyone else it's not. So you just habitually or unconsciously you might, let's say, skip over it, right? Meanwhile they don't really understand, and then you're just like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, kind of thing. It's called the curse of knowledge.
You gotta watch out for that.
You gotta watch out for the curse of knowledge. Yes,
I like that.